Hello, Mr. Chu here with Brack Geometry. And right here is Brack. Look at this big boy. Ha ha, do you see him? 120 pounders. So let's talk about some trig ratios. So Brack is here walking around here while I'm teaching. He likes to listen to me while I teach. So I have a video that was earlier than this one that I called BG lesson 10.02A, and the A part meant it was the introduction. So I was introducing trigonometry. In that I told a story about an Indian princess and her little boy that stubbed his toe, and then the chief explained how to remember this, SOH CAH TOA. And then I told a story about some horses. Some other horse caught another horse taking oath away. Check out that video. Subscribe to my channel. There are links down here under on your device. You can go and search for Mr. Keithy Chu on YouTube, and you'll find my station, and you'll find that lesson on trigonometry about the Indians. All right. So what does SOH CAH TOA mean? It is just a way to remember all of the different proportions, ratios, trig ratios. They're not proportions. The O stands for opposite. So to find the fraction or decimal that equals the sine of an angle theta, you put O over H, and H stands for hypotenuse. So theta is one of the acute angles, and you take the side opposite's length over the hypotenuse length, and you're going to get a fraction or a decimal, and that number is called the sine. I'm going to let my big boy out. He wants to go out into the other part of the house, probably get a drink. For cosine, that was CAH. The A is adjacent, the H is hypotenuse. So if I take the length of the side adjacent to my acute angle theta, it's just a variable, over the H, which is hypotenuse, I will get a fraction or a decimal that ends up equaling the cosine of that angle. Then for tangent, that's TOA. The O is still that side opposite over the adjacent. So now let's look at some examples here. Example 1, which was originally 2, and I've shortened the video a little bit because it was way too long. If I have this right triangle, I know it's a right triangle because of this right angle here. I know that this side over here is the hypotenuse, opposite the right angle. If I'm talking about angle P first, P, this would be opposite it, and this would be adjacent. This is what most students struggle with. So to find the sine of P, I look up here, and the sine is opposite over hypotenuse for SOH. So the opposite is 2 over the hypotenuse is 8, which equals 1/4. Now, quite often, they won't have you list it as a ratio. You'll list it as a decimal. So I use a TI 30X. You can see I have a nice, pretty pink one. And I take 1, divide it by 4, and that's 0.25. But we always list it to 4 decimal points, which is 10 thousandths. All right, now we're still dealing with angle P, and we want the cosine. So the cosine is CAH, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. The adjacent is 4 over 8. 4 over 8 reduces to 1/2, so that's 0.5, but I still put those 3 digits. Now there's a reason why we do that, and I'll explain that more whenever we get to applications of trigonometry. All right, now I'm going to change colors because now we no longer want P, we want M. So I'm going to go to blue, and we're dealing with this. So this is no longer adjacent to M, it is opposite. This is no longer opposite M, it is adjacent, but the hypotenuse stays the same. So for tangent, it's TOA, which is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite of M is 4. Adjacent is 2, which is 2, so that's 2.0000. Now, I will say this. The tangent is the only trig, ratio, or decimal that is over 1. Every sine, every cosine is between 0 and 1. When you get into pre-calc and calculus, they'll explain that using graphs. All right, now example 2. On example 2, we just have another right triangle, only now they're not going to be perfect lengths. That's why that's different. And I've got a length of this side here, got to get the right length. It is 7. So this one is 7 here. Okay. So now let's go ahead and let's do our sine of A, cosine of A, tangent of A. So the sine of A, sine is SOH, which is opposite over hypotenuse. And the opposite of A is down here, which is 12. The hypotenuse is over here because this is always the hypotenuse of A, and this would be adjacent 12/15. And 12/15, I can divide the top and bottom by 3, which would be 4/5, which is 0.8, but I put those zeros after it. All right, now we get to the cosine of A. So the cosine of A is, look over here, CAH, adjacent over hypotenuse, the adjacent of A is 7 over hypotenuse 15. I don't know what 7/15 is off the top of my head. So I take 7 divided by 15, and I get 0.46 repeating. And I round that last one to a 7. All right. Now, I'm going to move this just so it doesn't. This is the adjacent side right here. So the tangent of A, TOA, opposite over adjacent. And the opposite of A is 12. Over the adjacent is 7, and I have no idea what that is. It's not quite 2, because 2 would be 14 over 7. 1.714 285714. See, I'd have to have a calculator for that. So it wants me to round the nearest 10,000th. Remember, I told you that. So I underline that digit I'm rounding to. I look to the right. That is 5 or bigger, which means I'm going to bump that underline up 1. So it's about 1.7143. So those are all the sines, cosines, and tangents of right triangle acute angles. Now the last one I'm going to do, I called it example 4 on my introduction video, where I'd given the princess and Indian and horses story. It's actually the 3rd example here because I cut one of them out because it was way too long. The video was 20 minutes. So this example, I'm calling it example 3. I'm going to put 4 in parentheses because that's what it said on the check of understanding. We have another triangle here, and it's just a special 3, 4, 5 triangle. And these are the letters that I'd put on it. And it wanted you to find the cosine of A it wants sine, cosine, and tangent of A. So it's doing all the same angles. All right, so if we're dealing with A, you need to know that this is opposite A, this is adjacent to A, and this is the hypotenuse. And now we're just going to refer up to all of them now. I'm going to use different colors because my purple's running out a little bit. So the sine of A, so opposite over hypotenuse. So A's opposite is 3 over 5, which I don't even need a calculator for that. I know that that is 0.600. All right, the cosine of A is CA, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, adjacent 4 over hypotenuse. And then the tangent of A, TOA, hold on, it was tangent of B. Yep, I knew one of them was different. Yep, it was that one. Tangent of B. I'll change color here. So now, if we're talking about the tangent of B now, this is opposite now, not adjacent. And this is adjacent, not opposite. You just have to change those. So it's TOA, opposite, which is 4, over adjacent, which is 3, which is 1.3 repeating. And it ended up being choice 3 on that particular problem from that multiple choice question. That's much better. So the other video was 8 minutes longer than this one, which made it almost too long for people to watch from beginning to end. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this, share this, let your friends know that I'm Mr. Chew, teaching bracket geometry with trig in it, and I want to help you understand the math. So up here will be a link to that introduction video that has the Indian princess and horses story to help you remember the SOH CAH TOA. Down here will be a playlist and other videos over here. So make sure you subscribe to me, and I'll see you soon in another video. Mr.